Rain poured down in Moscow, and history slipped away with it. Drogba saw red, Terry slipped, and cries of pain echoed through the night. It wasn't just a final, it was chaos, heartbreak, and pure football drama. This is why the 2008 Champions League final will never be forgotten. You know, the 07-08 Champions League final wasn't just special, it was history in motion. It was the first time two English clubs faced each other in the Champions League final. England didn't just participate that year, it dominated. 3 of the 4 semi-finalists were English: Chelsea, Liverpool, and Manchester United. It was proof that the Premier League had become the centre of world football. But let's talk about those 2 finalists, Chelsea and Manchester United. 2 giants built differently, both desperate to win for very different reasons. On one side there was Chelsea, the team that had been chasing Europe's biggest prize for almost a decade. Domestically, they were powerful, Premier League champions in 2004-05 and 2005-06 under Jose Mourinho. But in Europe, they could never go all the way. They had come close so many times. In 1999-2000, they reached the quarter-finals, beating Barcelona 3-1 at Stamford Bridge before collapsing 5-1 in the second leg. In 03-04, they went one step further, the semi-finals. They faced Monaco, lost 3-1 in France, and drew 2-2 at home, going out 5-3 on aggregate. Then came 04-05, and with Mourinho in charge, it felt like destiny. They just dominated the Premier League, but in the Champions League, Liverpool ended their dream. A 0-0 draw at Stamford Bridge, followed by that controversial 1-0 defeat at Anfield, the ghost goal. 2 years later, in 06-07, history repeated itself. Again, it was Liverpool who broke their hearts. Chelsea won the first leg 1-0 thanks to Joe Cole, but lost 1-0 at Anfield, and when it went to penalties, Liverpool crushed them 4-1. So by the time 07-08 arrived, Chelsea were done being the almost team. They wanted Europe's crown and nothing less. But then, on the other side of the pitch, there was Manchester United, a team that knew how to win in Europe, but had struggled for years to get back to the top. They'd already lifted the European Cup twice before, first in 1968 when they beat Benfica 4-1 in extra time, with George Best running the show. Then again in 1999, that unforgettable comeback against Bayern Munich, with 2 stoppage-time goals from Sheringham and Solskjaer, sealed the treble. But after that glorious night in 1999, United hit a rough patch in Europe. In 03-04, they went out in the round of 16 to Porto, managed by a young Jose Mourinho. United won 2-1 at Old Trafford. United lost 2-1 in Portugal and then drew 1-1 at Old Trafford, and that late Costina goal knocked them out 3-2 on aggregate. That's the match where Mourinho famously ran down the touchline. Then in 04-05 it happened again, another round of 16 exit, this time against AC Milan. Hernan Crespo scored in both legs. Milan won 1-0 at Old Trafford and 1-0 at the San Siro. United couldn't score a single goal over 2 legs, a huge disappointment. But the lowest point came in 2005-06. United didn't even make it out of the group stage. They finished bottom of a group with Villarreal, Lille and Benfica, managing just 1 win in 6 games. They lost 2-1 to Benfica in their final group match, one of the darkest nights in Ferguson's European history. However, United started rebuilding. In 06-07 they bounced back strong. With Cristiano Ronaldo and Wayne Rooney coming into their prime, United made it all the way to the semi-finals. They beat Roma 8-3 on aggregate in the quarters, including that famous 7-1 demolition at Old Trafford, but then fell short against AC Milan again. United won the first leg 3-2 at Old Trafford, but at the San Siro, Milan destroyed them 3-0. So heading into 07-08, both teams had something to prove. Chelsea wanted their first ever Champions League title after years of heartbreak, and United wanted to reclaim the crown they hadn't touched since 1999. 2 English powerhouses, 2 different histories, 1 goal, Europe's biggest prize. But before that unforgettable night in Moscow, both clubs had to fight their way through a brutal season, one filled with pressure, revenge, and moments that defined their legacy. Chelsea's road to the 2008 final wasn't smooth. It was full of tension, pressure, and turning points that defined their identity as a club. They started that Champions League campaign in Group B alongside Valencia, Schalke 04 and Rosenborg. On paper, it looked like a manageable group, but right from the start, things began to unravel. Their first match was at Stamford Bridge against Rosenborg, and it ended 1-1. A disappointing result, but what followed was even bigger. Jose Mourinho was sacked the very next day. After all the success he brought, 2 Premier League titles, an FA Cup and consistent Champions League runs, his time at Chelsea ended in tension with the board. The man who took over wasn't a big name, Avram Grant. Many fans didn't even think he'd last till Christmas, but somehow he steadied the ship. Under Grant, Chelsea found their rhythm. They beat Valencia 2-1 away from home, drew 0-0 with Schalke, then beat Rosenborg 4-0 and Schalke 2-0 at the Bridge. They finished top of the group, quietly but efficiently. Then came the knockout stages, where Chelsea really started to look like contenders. In the round of 16, they faced Olympiacos. The first leg in Greece ended 0-0, a frustrating game where Chelsea couldn't find the breakthrough. But in the return leg at Stamford Bridge, they turned on the style. Goals from Ballack, Lampard and Kalou sealed a 3-0 win and sent them to the quarters. The quarter-final was a huge test. Fenerbahce, the Turkish side, had shocked everyone by reaching that far, and in the first leg in Istanbul, they showed why. Chelsea actually took the lead for a David own goal, but then Fenerbahce turned it around. David made up for his mistake with a stunning long-range strike and they won 2-1. That loss meant Chelsea had work to do in the second leg, but at Stamford Bridge they were composed. Goals from Ballack and Lampard made it 2-0 and they advanced 3-2 on aggregate. Then came the semi-final and of course it had to be Liverpool. The third Champions League semi-final clash in 4 seasons. By now, it was a rivalry full of history, heartbreak and grudges. The first leg was at Anfield and it looked like déjà vu. Liverpool led 1-0 after Dirk Kuyt's goal, and as the game entered stoppage time, Chelsea looked set to lose again at Anfield. But in the 94th minute, John-Arne Riise tried to clear a low cross and ended up heading the ball into his own net. That one moment changed everything. 1-0, and suddenly Chelsea had the advantage. Back at Stamford Bridge, the second leg was a war of nerves. Drogba scored early, but Torres equalised to take the game into extra time. That's when Michael Ballack stepped up, first winning a penalty and then watching Lampard bury it just days after his mother's passing. Drogba added another to make it 3-2 on the night, 4-3 on aggregate. For the first time in their history, Chelsea were in the Champions League final. Years of heartbreak, near misses and bad luck had finally turned into a shot at glory, and fittingly, they would face Manchester United, the other English powerhouse chasing history. While Chelsea had to fight through chaos and emotion to reach Moscow, United's path was a story of dominance, led by a young Cristiano Ronaldo who was about to conquer Europe. If Chelsea's road to Moscow was emotional and chaotic, Manchester United's was all about control, momentum and pure quality. From start to finish, they looked like a team built to win the Champions League. They were placed in Group F alongside Roma, Sporting Lisbon and Dynamo Kyiv. It wasn't an easy group, but United made it look like one. They opened their campaign with a 1-0 win away to Sporting Lisbon, fittingly the club where Cristiano Ronaldo began his career. Then back at Old Trafford, they beat Roma 1-0, a rematch from that famous 7-1 demolition the season before. From there, United went on a run that defined their dominance. They destroyed Dynamo Kyiv at home and away, 4-2 in Ukraine and 4-0 at Old Trafford. Ronaldo and Rooney were unstoppable, and even players like Nani and Tevez were stepping up in key moments. By the 5th match day, United had already secured qualification. They finished the group stage unbeaten with 5 wins and 1 draw, scoring 11 goals and conceding only 3. In the round of 16, they met Lyon, who at the time was still one of Europe's toughest sides. The first leg in France ended 1-1 with Carlos Tevez scoring a late equaliser to give United control at the time. Then, in the second leg at Old Trafford, Cristiano Ronaldo scored the winner, a calm finish that sent them through 2-1 on aggregate. Next up, the quarter-final against AS Roma again. By now, it almost felt personal. United went to Rome for the first leg and won 2-0. Goals from Ronaldo and Rooney silenced the Stadio Olimpico. Back in Manchester, they finished the job professionally, winning 1-0 thanks to a Tevez header. Over 2 legs, 3-0 on aggregate. Ferguson's side barely broke a sweat. But then came the semi-final, Barcelona. This was the ultimate test. Barcelona weren't at their peak yet, but they still had Messi, Xavi and Iniesta, players who could change a game in a moment. The first leg at the Camp Nou was tense. United defended deep, played compact, and escaped with a 0-0 draw even after Ronaldo missed an early penalty. That set up a massive second leg at Old Trafford. Just 14 minutes in, Paul Scholes produced one of the greatest goals of his career, a thunderous strike from outside the box that flew into the top corner. It was classic Scholes, no celebration, just a look of focus. United held on for the remaining 75 minutes, winning 1-0 on the night, 1-0 on aggregate, and booking their place in the final. For Ferguson, it was a moment of redemption. After years of disappointment in Europe, Porto, Milan, Benfica, he was finally back on the biggest stage. And for players like Ronaldo, Rooney and Tevez, it was a chance to prove they could turn potential into legacy. This final wasn't just about Europe, it was personal. Manchester United, Chelsea and Manchester United have been at each other's teammates from the same country, every headline, rivals from the same league, and two managers chasing history, just fighting for trophies. One looking to bring United back to the glory days, to prove the other trying to deliver Chelsea's first ever. It started back in August with the Community Shield at Wembley. The game ended 1-1, goals from Giggs and Malouda, but United won 3-0 on penalties. It was only the season's curtain raiser, but it already felt symbolic. United showing they could handle pressure better. Then came the Premier League itself. A race so close it went down to the final day. United finished with 87 points, Chelsea with 85. Just 2 points separated them after 38 games. That's how fine the margins were. Chelsea's slip-ups cost them dearly. Late-season draws against Wigan and Bolton hurt badly. Those were the games they should have closed out. But pressure, fatigue, and missed chances turned into 2 costly drop points. Meanwhile, United were ruthless. Cristiano Ronaldo was in the form of his life, scoring 31 league goals. And when these two faced each other directly, sparks flew. At Old Trafford, United won 2-0. Carlos Tevez opened the scoring, and Luis Saha sealed it from the penalty spot. But that game also had controversy. Chelsea's John Obi Mikel was sent off in the first half after a reckless tackle on Patrice Evra. It was also one of Avram Grant's first big tests after replacing Mourinho, and United made sure he felt it. Then came the return fixture at Stamford Bridge, one of the most dramatic league games of the season. Chelsea, desperate to stay in the title race, threw everything at United. Michael Ballack stepped up big time, scoring twice, including that 86-minute penalty that sent the Bridge wild. Chelsea won 2-1, and for a brief moment, the title race was alive again. So by the time Moscow came around, this wasn't just another final. This was revenge. This was red versus blue. This was England's 2 best teams finally meeting on the biggest stage of all, the Champions League final. Both teams had proven themselves all season, but now there were no second chances. One match, one night, one winner. In Moscow, everything came down to how the two sides would set up, and both managers knew the smallest tactical decision could decide the entire game. Chelsea lined up in a 4-3-2-1, a shape that had become their identity under Avram Grant. In goal stood the ever-reliable Petr Cech, the calm presence who had saved them countless times that season. Across the back, Grant went with Michael Essien, Ricardo Carvalho, John Terry and Ashley Cole. Essien wasn't a natural right-back, but his athleticism and work rate made him the perfect option against United's pace. Terry and Carvalho were the heart of the defence, experienced, tough and always willing to put their bodies on the line. Ashley Cole on the other flank gave Chelsea the balance, solid defensively and brave enough to push forward when needed. In midfield, Grant trusted his most experienced trio, Claude Makelele, Frank Lampard and Michael Ballack. Makelele was the anchor, the shield in front of the defence, quietly cleaning up everything. Lampard and Ballack, meanwhile, were the engines, powerful, intelligent and dangerous when arriving late into the box. That partnership was Chelsea's backbone in big games. Ahead of them, he went with Joe Cole and Florent Malouda, just behind Didier Drogba, forming a narrow attacking line. It was almost the exact same lineup that had beaten Man United at Stamford Bridge just a few weeks earlier. Grant was betting on stability and chemistry, the players who had already proven they could go toe-to-toe with Ferguson's side. On the other hand, Manchester United lined up in their usual 4-4-2, but with their own unique twist. In goal, Edwin van der Sar, calm, experienced, and already a Champions League winner with Ajax. The back four was solid and settled. Wes Brown on the right, Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand in the heart of defence, and Patrice Evra on the left. That partnership between Vidic and Ferdinand was arguably the best in Europe at the time. One was all about power and aggression, the other all about composure and reading of the game. In midfield, Ferguson went with Michael Carrick and Paul Scholes in the centre. Carrick dictated the tempo, while Scholes brought the creative passing and calmness while under pressure. Out wide, Cristiano Ronaldo started on the left, where he could cut inside onto his stronger foot, and Owen Hargreaves was deployed on the right, a tactical move to help deal with Ashley Cole's runs and provide energy on both ends of the pitch. Up front, it was a hard-working duo of Wayne Rooney and Carlos Tevez, two players who never stopped pressing, chasing, and fighting for every ball. They weren't just strikers, they were the first line of defence. It was a setup that showed exactly what this final was about: Chelsea's structure and strength versus United's fluidity and flair. Now, with everything set, the rain falling, the tension rising, and history waiting, it was time for kickoff. What followed was one of the most dramatic finals football has ever seen. The rain was relentless, the tension unbearable. Two English giants standing under the Moscow night sky, both chasing immortality. From the first whistle, it was tight. Both sides were cautious, feeling each other out, knowing one mistake could define everything. United looked sharper going forward. Chelsea looked disciplined and patient. Every tackle, every pass carried weight. Then came the 26th minute. Paul Scholes and Wes Brown exchanged passes down the right. Brown lifted a perfect cross into the box, and Cristiano Ronaldo, who else, rose above Essien and Cole. A stunning header right into the far post past Petr Cech. 1-0 to Manchester United. The Portuguese winger ran off with arms wide open. It was his 42nd goal of the season, and on the biggest stage of all, he had delivered again. United were in full control after that. Cech had to pull off two huge saves in quick succession, first from Tevez, then from Carrick. Chelsea were hanging on, but they refused to fold. And just when United seemed certain to go into half-time ahead, everything changed. In the final moments of the first half, Essien tried his luck from distance. His shot took two deflections, one off Vidic, another off Ferdinand, and suddenly the ball fell perfectly to Frank Lampard. He stayed calm, slotted it past Van der Sar, and immediately looked up, pointing to the sky in memory of his late mother. 1-1. Chelsea were level and momentum had shifted. The second half was all Chelsea. They came out with purpose. Lampard, Ballack, and Drogba started to dominate. Essien's energy from the back was relentless. Around the 77th minute, Drogba cut inside and unleashed a powerful strike from 25 yards. It rattled the post. Inches from glory, United were defending for their lives, weathering the storm. Both sides were exhausted, slipping on the wet turf, chasing a dream that seemed to drift just out of reach. Extra time arrived and the tension somehow grew heavier. Lampard hit the underside of the bar. Then Giggs, brought on for Scholes, had a golden chance, but his effort was cleared off the line by John Terry. A heroic moment that kept Chelsea alive. Then came the chaos. The ball was put out so players could get treatment, but when it came back into play, Tevez pressed hard instead of standing off. Tempers exploded. Players surrounded each other, shoving, shouting. A full-blown brawl in a Champions League final. Amid the madness, Drogba lost his composure and slapped Vidic across the face. The referee saw it. Red card. Drogba was sent off. Chelsea were down to 10 men. With no time left, it all came down to penalties. Penalty shootout. Rio Ferdinand won the toss. United would shoot first in front of their fans. Tevez scored. Ballack replied. Carrick scored. Belletti replied. Then Ronaldo stepped up, that famous stuttered run-up, but Cech read it perfectly and saved. Advantage Chelsea. Lampard scored. Hargreaves scored. Ashley Cole scored despite Van der Sar getting a hand to it. Then Nani stepped up and scored to make it 4-4. Now it was John Terry's moment. One kick from history. He slipped as he struck the ball. The shot hit the post and went wide. Chelsea hearts broke there in the rain. Sudden death. Giggs scored for United. Then came Anelka. Van der Sar pointed to his left, but dived right and saved it. Manchester United 6-5 on penalties, champions of Europe. The players in red sprinted toward their keeper, the rain mixing with tears and champagne. On the other side, Chelsea's players sank to the ground, broken, stunned, and silence. And just like that, history repeated itself. Manchester United were champions of Europe again. It was their third European crown, and it completed a magnificent double, the Premier League and the Champions League in the same season. Sir Alex Ferguson's men had done it. The dream was real. Ronaldo, Rooney, Tevez, they carried United back to the very top of Europe. But on the other side of that Moscow pitch, it was pure heartbreak. For Chelsea, everything they'd worked for collapsed in those few painful seconds. The image of John Terry slipping on that penalty spot became one of football's most haunting sights. Drogba's red card, Lampard's tears, and the silence that followed Van der Sar's save, it was all too familiar. Because this wasn't just one loss, it was a season of heartbreaks, all delivered by the same team. They lost the Community Shield to United. They lost the Premier League title to United by just 2 points. And now, in the Champions League final, they lost again to United. 3 competitions, 1 rival, the same painful ending. For United, it was legacy. For Chelsea, it was torment. The feeling of being so close, yet watching it slip quite literally away. That night in Moscow, under the cold rain with tears, slipping boots and broken dreams, it became more than just a football match. It became a symbol of how cruel and beautiful this game can be. But do you think if they never got the red card, Chelsea could have won? Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.